Every state has a statehood day. That was the day each territory became a state. When people started settling in Nebraska, it became a territory. New ways of transportation and communication like the steamboat freight lines and the Pony Express helped even more people move west with a big increase of population. Now it was time to vote. However, women and black people could not vote. Before the vote happened, the U.S. government decided that black people living in Nebraska could vote in the statehood too. On March 1st, 1867, Nebraska became the 37th state of the United States. For the rest of the video, we will share a little bit of Nebraska history with you. A symbol is something that stands for something else. All of Nebraska's symbols show something special about our state. Some symbols are the flag, tree, bird, flower, and the fossil. The flag is blue and yellow. In the middle of the flag is the state seal, which has our blacksmith bundles of wheat, a tree, and a train. It also has our statehood day and motto. Our motto is equality before the law. The state tree is the cottonwood tree. The cottonwood tree grows fast and provided wood and shade in the summer. The state bird is the western meadowlark. The western meadowlark has a black V on the bird's chest. They live in fields, pastures, and on the prairie. The bird eats worms, spiders, insects, and snails. The state flower is the goldenrod. The goldenrod grows wild. It can be found on the sides of Nebraska's roads. The state fossil is the mammoth. Mammoths had lived here for a long time. Early inhabitants hunted these animals for food. They also used the bones for tools. The mammoth bones have been found all over Nebraska.
State symbols continued by Katie. There are many other state symbols too. Our state rock is the prairie agate. They also make jewelry out of it. You can find the prairie agate in the Ogallala National Grassland. Our state insect is the honeybee. Our state is home to more than 61,000 honeybees, and they make more than 4 million pounds of honey each year. Kool-Aid is our state soft drink. Kool-Aid was created by Edwin Parkins, a man who once lived in Hastings. Later on, you will hear some more stuff about our soft drink Kool-Aid with Hadley. The square dance is our state folk dance. Square dancing was a nice break from farming and chores. It can also be a lot of fun to do and watch.
Nebraska is divided into two major landforms. They are the Great Plains and the Chill Plains. The Great Plains are made from different places like the Sandhills, High Plains, and Badlands. The Sandhills are like the name, hills made of sand. The High Plains are filled with plains, buttes, and bluffs. They are on the western side of our state. A well-known rock formation is Chimney Rock. The Badlands region just dips into our state in the northwest corner. The land there is rough and rocky. The Chill Plains are where we live. It is a great place for agriculture, like growing crops, because the soil is so good. Most Nebraskans live in this part of our state. Omaha and Lincoln are both found in this region.
Fun history facts. Did you know that Nebraska was part of the ocean? We know this because scientists have found seashells and fossils of sharks and other fish. Did you know that Nebraska was tropical forest? After the ocean dried up, the weather became warmer and forest plants and animals grew and lived there, including dinosaurs. Did you know that a scientist was wandering around in a cornfield and found a secret watering hole? A very long time ago, thousands of miles away, a volcano erupted. Ashes flew all over, even to our area. The ash was so thick that it killed all the animals, so scientists had found the very spot where these animals were. Now it is called Ashfall Fossil Bed, and it is located by Royal, Nebraska.
Native Americans and how they lived. The Native people kept a rich culture with many traditions. All tribes respected the earth. They didn't waste anything. They hunted buffalo and used every part of the buffalo. They used the tie to make teepee, clothes, blankets, and bags. The skull was used for ceremonies. The bones were used for dyes, knives, and paintbrushes. The stomach was used for a container. The hair was used for ropes and to stuff pillows. The meat and kidneys were eaten or turned into soup. The hooves were used for glue and as a rattle. The tongue was used for a hairbrush. They used member of the family had a specific job. The men hunted and fished for meat. They also made and repaired hunting tools. Women and children gathered wild food like grapes, plums, onions, and potatoes. Women made clothes, teepees, and moccasins. Women were in charge of food, children, and the home. Native Americans were great storytellers. They gathered around the warm fires and listened to legends. Legends taught important lessons like treating all living things with respect.
There were two types of Native American tribes in our area. They were nomadic tribes and farming tribes. Nomadic tribes were always on the move and usually traveled by foot or on horseback. They had to hunt all the time. That they usually hunted for large game like buffalo. The buffalo had to move to feed, so the nomadic tribes had to move with them. They had no permanent homes and usually lived in teepees. Farming tribes hunted and farmed at certain times of the year. They would also plant corn, squash, beans, and sunflowers in the spring. They would hunt. When they got back from the hunt, they would harvest the crops. After harvest, they would hunt again to stock up for winter. Farming tribes lived in a permanent home like an earth lodge. They would always come back to the same place.
Explorers began to travel west to learn about the land. Lewis and Clark were probably the most famous. They made maps and pictures about the land. The government sent John C. Fremont out west to make a route for people to travel west. Fremont and his wife wrote how beautiful it was and that it would be good for farming. This made many people want to travel west. The route they called the Oregon Trail started in Independence, Missouri, and ended up in Oregon country. The trip took 6 months and was over 2,000 miles. People traveled in covered wagons pulled by horses, mules, or oxen. The trip was dangerous and hard. You had to cross rivers. Sometimes the wagons would tip over in the water and animals and people would drown. The summers were hot and you would have to do a lot of walking. Even though it was hard, people still wanted to travel west and settle in this new land.
Hi, I'm Aubrey. There was something important that made people want to settle in Nebraska. Free land. What made all this land possible? A law called the Homestead Act gave away land in Nebraska and other places in the West. The people who came here for free land were called homesteaders. For about $18 in fee, they could get 160 acres of land. That is the size about of 110 football fields. There were requirements. A person had to be 21 or head of the family and live there for 5 years. They had to prove up their homestead by building a house and making improvements to the land like digging a well and planting trees. A man named Daniel Freeman was one of the first homesteaders. There's a memorial called Homestead National Monument in Beatrice, Nebraska. Soldiers who fought from the North during the Civil War got a special favor. If they wanted homestead land, they could use their time in the army in place of spent proving up on their land claim. This meant they didn't have to wait so long to own their land. Many young soldiers took advantage of this. Okay, now African Americans. After the Civil War, all African Americans were free. They tried working in different jobs, but they were not always treated with respect. Many left the South and went north to find jobs. Others went west to homestead. They built black communities such as Brownlee and Westerville. They also lived in communities such as Brownville with white settlers. Because of the Homestead Act, there were many more people living in this area.
One of the first things a settler had to do was to build a house. It could be made of logs or sod. It could also be a dugout made from the side of a hill. It was really hard to keep a dirt floor clean. Often rain leaked through the roof. Small animals would often crawl into the house. Settlers had to get the land ready for farming. They had to plow the ground to loosen the soil for planting seeds. They had to plant enough seeds for themselves and their animals. As a kid, some of your chores might have been milking the cow or feeding the chickens and collecting their eggs. You might have even helped with sewing or washing your clothes. Going to school was only part-time. Kids only went to school if they weren't needed on the farm. There were no books or paper. You had one teacher for the whole school.
Today I'm going to talk a little about a few bull heroes that came from our state. John Pitcherson. John Pitcherson fought in the Indian Wars and led the Buffalo Soldiers. He found some of the last of those wars. He went to UNL to get a law degree and teach classes. He also fought in World War I, where he was sent to Europe to command soldiers. Congress gave him one of the highest titles, General of the Armies of the United States, which is the highest rank of a general. Evelyn Shaw. Evelyn really wanted to fly airplanes. She saved all of her money for lessons. The people of Nebraska helped her buy a plane to practice. She became one of the youngest people to ever get a pilot's license. She helped during World War II with the Women's Air Force Service pilots. She would fly the planes to where they were needed, but she couldn't fight in the war because she was a girl. She was one of the best experienced pilots in the country. Edward Gomez. Edward Gomez grew up in Omaha and went to school there. He joined the Marines when he was 17. He fought in the Korean War, fought with bravery, and ultimately the sacrifice of his life. He earned a Medal of Honor, our country's highest award.
I'm going to talk about inventors from Nebraska. My first inventor is Harold Wart. Harold Wart lived on a farm. He saw that chickens grew bigger and faster in the summer than in the winter. He was sure the sunlight and warmth made the difference, so he began to experiment. He invented plexiglass. It is an early form of plastic. He used it to build a hen house. The plexiglass helped keep hen houses warm, and Harold saw a big difference in the chickens and the egg crops. Edwin Perkins. As a child growing up in Henley, Edwin Perkins liked to experiment with food products. He really liked food called jelly. He started a business called Perkins Products Company. Edwin had an idea to make a drink called Fruit Smack. It was a thick flavored syrup mixed with water. Edwin thought of a way to improve his product. He invented a way to make the drink flavors into powder. He called the powder Kool-Aid. People just had to add water to the powder. Kool-Aid came in 6 flavors: strawberry, cherry, lemon lime, grape, orange, and raspberry. Because of his invention, Kool-Aid has become our state soft drink. Harold Edgerton. Even as a youngster in Fremont and Aurora, Harold loved to invent things. He learned how to develop photographs, and he built a photo lab in his house. Harold, or Doc as most people called him, invented new types of cameras. He became famous for stop-action photos. These photos recorded the movements of things you can't usually see, even the wings of a hummingbird. Scientists used his idea to study how things like animals and plants moved and changed. He even invented underwater cameras. His cameras helped people study oceans, lakes, and also invented cameras that could be used at night to see enemies during war.
My name is Noah, and I'm going to talk about Henry Fonda, Johnny Carson, and Fred Astaire. Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda was a famous entertainer. He was born in Grand Island. When he was young, and he moved to Omaha and acted with the Omaha Community Playhouse. He became a famous actor on TV and in movies. He was in about 45 movies and starred in a lot of war movies and western like Grapes of Wrath. Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson's family moved to Nebraska when he was young. He loved to entertain people with magic tricks. As he got older, he moved to Hollywood to work at a TV station. He helped a friend out when they got injured, and he did so well that he got his own TV show. He became the host of The Tonight Show. Fred Astaire. Fred Astaire was from Omaha. He moved to New York as a child, but always came back to Nebraska. He was a world-famous dancer in the early movies. He performed in many movies like Swing Time and Shall We Dance.
Government people are all around us. The government made this thing called the U.S. Constitution. The Constitution says that citizens have the right to vote for their government leaders. They do this by having elections. The government has three branches called executive, legislature, and judicial. Our state legislative branch is different than all the other states. Nebraska is the only state to not have two house legislature. We have a one house, which is called the unicameral. Representatives of the unicameral are senators. We have 49 senators. Each represents about 32,000 people. The senator for our area is Bruce Bosselman. Our senator spends a lot of time working in the Capitol building, which you'll learn more about from Ella. Another cool thing about our legislature is that it is nonpartisan. That means there are no political parties. We have a speaker for the legislature who is in charge of daily agendas and scheduling. There are also committees that work together to help decisions.
Back in time when Nebraska became a territory, the location of our capital was in Omaha. The territory capital in Omaha was not resolved until statehood in 1867. The legislature voted to move the state capital south of the Platte River. The ideas were Ashland, Yankee Hill, and Lancaster. Lancaster is now called Lincoln. They didn't choose Ashland because it had too many mosquitoes. They didn't choose Yankee Hill because they didn't want everybody to think they were fried with ice cream. They did choose Lancaster because it was near Salt Creek. The building is currently in Lincoln. The construction was from 1867 to 1868. Soon the state capitol began to crumble. They built a second one, but it did the same. They talked about a third building. It was built and then finished in 1950. This one stayed. The finishes of the building cost just under $10 million. There are a total of 15 stories in the Capitol building. The bottom level has a lot of offices. The main level contains the governor's office, the Nebraska Supreme Court, and the Court of Appeals and Legislatures. From the center of the building up is 362 feet. At the very top, there is a statue of the Golden Sword. He is 32 feet high. The inside of the building is covered with artwork, paintings, and statues. They describe and represent many parts of Nebraska and its history. Another fun thing is that you can ride the elevator up to the lookout tower and see many miles of Lincoln.
Nebraska is divided into 93 different counties. Each county has a county seat. We live in Saunders County, and our county seat is Wahoo. Our first county election was held in 1866. The county's first courthouse was built in 1870. Located on the east lawn of the courthouse today is a replica of the Mark 14 torpedo, which stands as a memorial to the USS Wahoo and its crew of 65 who died during World War II. The submarines helped the sinking of 20 Japan ships before it was sunk by the enemy. If you are wondering how the county seat received its unique name, then it is your lucky day. I am about to tell you. There are two versions. The first is that the name originates from an Indian word for medical plant known as the burning bush, which grew along the banks of the Wahoo Creek. The second story is from the word pahu, which means not very bluff terrain. I like the pahu version better because it is a funny word to say.
Did you know that trees will grow and provide us with clean air and water, cooling shade, habitat for wildlife, healthier communities, and an endless nature beauty, all for a better tomorrow? On January 4th, 1872, Julius Sterling Morton, who lived in Nebraska City, first proposed a tree planting holiday to be called Arbor Day at a meeting with the State Board of Agriculture. He estimated on the 10th of April in 1872, 1 million trees were planted in the Nebraska Territory. Theodore Roosevelt delivered an Arbor Day speech about the importance of trees and forestry and how it should be taught to all school children all over the United States. The proclamation was promoted by Pennsylvania conservationist
McGray, who was recommended a national policy that educates the youth of America about conservation and the significance of trees and forestry. Today, Arbor Day is celebrated in all 50 states. Nebraska City holds an Arbor Day festival in late April every year. This year will be the 150th annual Arbor Day celebration.
The purpose of the Nebraska Passport is to help travelers discover Nebraska's hidden gems in every region of the state. The Nebraska Passport is special because it offers a wide variety of travel spending, including museums, parks, restaurants, wineries, retail stores, and more. Past Passport travelers report that they love Passport road trips with their families and friends and enjoy seeing Nebraska's beautiful scenery. Nebraska tourism encourages you not to only visit the Passport stops, but explore all that Nebraska has to offer. Why is the program important? Not only do people enjoy the beautiful scenery of Nebraska, but it has a huge economic impact. Every year, the Passport generates millions of dollars in travel spending and local and state tax revenue. Following are the results of the 2019 program. $23.7 million in travel spending, $1.9 million in local and state tax revenue. How the Passport works. At each Passport stop participants visit, they receive a stamp, either in a Passport booklet or a digital stamp on the Nebraska Passport app. The program runs from May 1st to September 30th. Participants then turn in their stamps and receive prizes. There is no fee to participate in the Nebraska Passport program, and is no purchase necessary to receive Passport stamps at the Passport stops.